Welcome back. In this video I'm having a very short trip out into the countryside to a place called Nordelta, which is a big housing development near Tigre, just northwest of Buenos Aires. And this is the short motorway stretch, and I'm trying this video without some music this time, just to see how it sounds and to see if adding music actually takes away from the feel of actually riding a motorbike on the roads in Buenos Aires. I actually did this video about 5 years ago, as you can see from the date, 4 years ago actually, November 2015, and I was just trying out the GoPro lookalike, which I mentioned in the other video, and as you can see there's a bug, a fly or something like that stuck to the lens, so we'll just have to live with that, I'm afraid. But I think the sound of the engine adds quite a lot to the general feel, actually, the atmosphere. Instead of being drowned out with wall-to-wall music, as it were. See what you think. I used to do this ride every day, actually, for about 3 years, when I had a shop in Buenos Aires, in Olivos. We seem to have lost the camera there slightly. So it was there and back every day, and it was good fun. But that particular place there that I'm just turning left at was always a police roadblock, and that driver either didn't see me or didn't want to see me, but anyway, and I used to get stopped almost every time I came back, and not for any particular reason, but they always want to see your documents. I usually stop at red lights, but not everybody does, as you can see. This is a new bypass that they built, well, a bypass is just coming up very shortly, that they built to avoid Tigre itself, because it used to get absolutely chock-a-block with traffic at rush hour. And being in November, of course, spring is well and truly sprung. They do like their graffiti in Argentina. It's something you can't really get away from, particularly at election time. Here we have a lot of graffiti for Massa, who was the mayor of Tigre, which is the small town on the delta of the Rio de la Plata. And I must admit, he did a lot of good work for the town and the general area in terms of security, and came up with this bypass, which is known as Camino de los Remeros. Remeros, that means rowers, because there's a big rowing club just at the end of this bypass. I do enjoy this particular road because you can enjoy yourself on the bike, no doubt about that. The roadworks all look a little bit haphazard, but since that time, well, now 2019 September, these are completely finished and everything looks a hell of a lot better. Yes, and on a quiet day like today, traffic-wise that is, you really can enjoy yourself. So I'm hoping that I might be able to overtake this car in front. I'm not sure what speed I'm doing. I would imagine probably about 70 kilometers an hour, which is what, 45, 50 miles an hour? I don't think that fly in the top of the screen is having a good time. Again, you'll probably notice me overtaking him in the, well, what could be termed as the inside lane or the slow lane, but it doesn't seem to make any difference in Buenos Aires. He's obviously going to sit in that lane, so I really have no choice. All this land here is reclaimed land, well, reclaimed from the river, and it's originally quite boggy and marshy, or farmland, I'm not sure exactly, but it's all been reclaimed, and huge gated communities have been built throughout the entire area. It's enormous. In fact, we did used to live in a gated community, otherwise known as a barrio cerrado, a closed town, for about 3 years, I think, and after that we moved back to the suburbs. Now, this is a roundabout coming up, and roundabouts are interesting in Buenos Aires. They all have, see that sign that about 10 o'clock, it says give way. Well, you're supposed to give way here because people on the roundabout have right of way. They have priority. But for some reason, that's completely ignored and it gets reversed. So everybody who is on the roundabout, for some reason, they stop and let people onto the roundabout, whereas other people on the roundabout think they have priority. Well, in fact, legally they have priority, but since everybody else is stopping to let the traffic go through the roundabout, and traffic going through the roundabout from top to bottom, as it were, don't have priority, so it all gets incredibly confusing, and the general consensus is like an unwritten rule that the law doesn't seem to apply. In other words, when you get to a roundabout, even though you're not on it, you have priority. So I just, again, as I mentioned in the other video, you really have to just go with the flow, otherwise you get knocked off your bike. This is the river, I think it's the river Reconquista, or Rio Lojan, I think it's Reconquista. And this is the main road into what is known as Nordelta, which is the huge housing development I mentioned a minute or so ago. And it's quite a wealthy area. Those, the people that live in places like Nordelta are generally fairly wealthy, upper middle class, middle to upper class, and it's certainly developing, and there's a lot of big businesses sprouting up. There's a big 5-star Hilton hotel, I think, up on the right, shortly, in about another 5 minutes. But living in a gated community has its pros and cons. It's a little bit isolated in terms of having security before you get in. That aspect of it didn't really appeal to me. The overriding factor, of course, is safety, because Argentina does have a history of violent robberies and break-ins, and everybody outside these gated communities, of course, have bars on their windows, which is something which at first was rather alien to me, coming from the UK, but it's a fact of life. I believe the speed limit here is 60 kilometers an hour, and I can't be sure what kind of speed I'm doing at the moment. I have a funny feeling it's slightly more than 60, but don't tell anybody. Well, it's a nice area for riding around on the weekend, that's for sure, and not quite as much fun as getting out on the open road, which I'll be doing later on, when there's practically no traffic at all. Once you get about, 50 kilometers outside the city, or even 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers away from here, in fact. Just in front and slightly to the left is the main Nordelta shopping centre. There's cinemas, hundreds of shops, mainly clothes and shoes, has to be said, baby clothes, and a cinema. Yes, this is the bit I really enjoy. There's another roundabout just coming up, so we'll have to see how people handle that. See if there's any traffic. No, there's no traffic on the roundabout, so... But you have to say, in fact, I don't think I've ever seen an accident on a roundabout because of confusion of about priorities, or look at that old Renault 12, priorities, not once. So people just seem to manage, you know, whether it's right or wrong, and the traffic just keeps moving. This one's a relatively short video because a little bit further on I go over a bump and the camera takes a bit of a tumble, and all you end up seeing is parts of the road. So until the next time, and let me know if you think music would be beneficial to a video like this.